Welcome to the Producers Happy Hour with your hosts, Sister Christian and Lawrence Lewis.
We're two producers with over 20 years of experience each, chatting over drinks about what it means
and what it takes to be a good producer.
Join us for insightful interviews and informative show topics that will help you get through your toughest jobs,
biggest production challenges,
and most difficult clients. So grab a drink.
You're gonna need it.
And let's get to it.
Because making shit
is hard. So, Lawrence, what's up? How you been?
Good. How about you? See how he deflected there?
I'm good.
Okay, that took a minute, but we got there.
I don't know. I mean, it's just been the weirdest year on record.
Yeah.
Of my adult life, I feel.
Seriously.
And not weird. I know, like, not, I mean, believe me, give me a problem like a pandemic. We fucking made,
Yeah.
We conquered that when it comes to work, right? But I mean, give me this weird slowdown stuff, but that really plays on the psyche.
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
And my goodness, with everything going on in Hollywood and Washington, D.C., Jesus, and New York. The day we're recording this, New York is flooded, has been flooded.
I know.
And
I mean, there could be a government shutdown. Hopefully, the good news is, at the time of this recording, hopefully the writers have struck a deal that protects them against, minimums, staffing minimums and AI replacement and all of that, and residuals. So hopefully they're covered with all of that, which is the bright spot in this week.
Yes, we do know there is a tentative deal. Hopefully it is good enough to get ratified by everybody. And
exactly. Which is first
start
steps.
Moving again. Yeah. And then supposedly, I think I saw somewhere that SAG has a meeting on Monday. We're recording this on a Saturday. They have a meeting on Monday with AMPTP. So we'll see how that goes.
Yes, we wish them the best of luck.
Yeah. But so, sister, this episode kind of started because of this article that popped up the other day on Shots, online magazine. I'll put a link to that article in the episode guide for this episode, so make sure you sign up to get it. The title of it is it possible to work in advertising and have a conscience?
I guess that depends on who you ask.
It does, right?
Right.
And there's all this talk about the evils of capitalism and this awareness of our labor culture and what is happening in it right now. And it's a pretty good time, and with these strikes hopefully coming to a positive resolution, we will be getting back to work soon. So let's talk about it. Ethics in working in commercial production. Now, the article presented the scenario that, okay, let's say you just got a job offer to work on a commercial for an arms manufacturer.
Yeah.
Would you take it? Right. That's kind of the conceit of this whole
right. And
thing.
That got us talking about how the types of jobs we take and if the advertiser is deciding factor for us, because sometimes it's not always black and white.
Right. Ethics goes much deeper, more than just what the product is that you're selling, right? Because, if we're being honest, most of the advertisers we work for, they're owned by BlackRock and Vanguard, and they're contributing to causes that we don't necessarily agree with, or they're supporting politicians we don't agree with. And that machine is so huge, it's really hard to kind of follow, right? So you kind of have to just assume most of the advertisers we work for are not doing the
they're all owned by
things.
one. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, like Hidden Valley Ranch. Like, listen, there's this guy on TikTok who will go through who will go through the grocery aisle and say, okay, here are the 3 choices of salad dressing that you can make that are family owned. Otherwise, guess what? BlackRock
and Vanguard and State Street own the entire aisle, except this little section with actual, mom and pop goods.
Exactly. So, I mean, you can do research until you're, 1 foot in the grave, as they say. Mm-hmm. And you may find out that even though you feel like your ethics are in the correct place, as a consumer, you may not always have a choice.
Exactly.
Yeah. So where do we place our ethics when it comes to taking jobs? That's what we're talking about today. And I think that a few of our answers may shock you, or maybe like, oh, of course.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm going to need a drink for this one. Actually, I think I might have two because I'm going to be super honest here.
Yeah. This is going to be, I need a stiff one. What are you drinking? What's drink number one, Christian?
So Sasha threw something together that he was calling a elderflower tonic Cosmo.
Ooh.
And I was like, what do you call that? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, oh, well, etc., etc.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
So I'm having an etc. And probably we'll have etc., etc.
Yeah, etc., etc. Amazing.
Yes. What are you having today?
Well, so there is a cocktail called the Moral Suasion, which I thought was genius, but I didn't have the ingredients to make it. And it's like lemon juice, peach schnapps, Grand Marnier, Benedictine, and cognac. But
that sounds like a syrupy, like Lady Delight.
Right. So it's also not in my wheelhouse. So some might say some of my ethics are a little old-fashioned. So I made myself an old-fashioned.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Right.
I mean, ethics in general are, I feel that it's based a lot around situations too. Some people's ethics. I mean, it's situation based, unfortunately.
Yeah. Before we jump into this lively topic of ethics, this is a message for all of our production pros out there. We know the struggles of staying on top with everything that's going on in this crazy industry. But fear not, we've got something just for you.
It's our Producer's Happy Hour episode guide, packed with insights, resources, and all the intel that you need to stay on top of the industry.
Get it, stay informed, sign up for it at producershappyhour.com or click the link in our show notes.
Okay, I am so ready for this one because I have some hot takes. Hot takes.
So I wrote down some factors that you kind of just look at, but when you get a call offer, the phone, bring, hello, we'd like to hire you for this job.
Usually, so this is more like oh my God, this job's going to book in tomorrow. Are you available?
Exactly. More like that. Yeah.
Depends, but go on.
Yeah, it's like 6:00 at night. It's like, we need you tomorrow morning. So
for the next 20 days straight, you're like, okay.
So there's a lot of variables in a job. So I listed them out so we could discuss how much these play into the decision of whether or not we're going to take the job. And they all point to ethics. So the very first one is the obvious one that the article in Shots Magazine talks about. It's the advertiser. So, like, would you don't have to answer this question, Christian, but like, the thinking in my, but there's just too many. But like oil companies, if tobacco could still advertise, would you do a tobacco commercial? Would you do a commercial for a casino? Gambling is an issue. Would you do a cryptocurrency commercial, a big bank commercial, Amazon, Tesla, SpaceX? Would you do political ads for politicians you don't agree with? Like, how does that all play in for you?
Okay, so I'm going to say that, yes. So when it comes to advertiser, this is my thinking. They're going to advertise anyway. Somebody's going to do this job.
Yes.
If I take this job, because usually the advertisers that you just mentioned those are going to be well-funded jobs.
That's true.
So I'm going to be able to take that money and use it ethically. I understand that the end result is something over here, but I'm going to be able to pay people their wages. I'm going to be able to feed them well. I'm going to be able to provide them like a good working environment, a safe working environment, an ethical working environment, all the things. So yes, like I get that the end result is for somebody who may not be ethically good. But if this money is going to be used anyway for advertising, at least I can do my part by making sure it's spent ethically.
Yes.
And, That's all. Except for political ads.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that falls into a territory of I'm not going to give my expertise,
Yes.
to benefit a political message that is would directly harm me.
Yeah.
Which would be Republican. Sorry to get. I will get. I'm sure people know though.
I think people can guess if they listen.
I'm not going to vote against women. So
2 minutes.
There you go.
So now I'll just challenge that. Wouldn't that be the same kind of thinking that would go behind, doing a commercial for BP or somebody that's directly harming the environment?
Right. So on the level that I have, like my level of abilities. Mm-hmm. I only have the power like I said, it's going to happen anyway. They're going to choose some producer.
Yeah,
if they've chosen me, they've chosen an ethical one. Mm-hmm. So I'm in charge of spending their $1 million.
Yes.
That's 1 million of their, billions that they have that happen to have been spent ethically. Yeah, that's all I think. Oh, how about you? Like, have you ever given up a job because of the advertiser?
I have. Well, no, not because of the advertiser, because of the message. And we're going to get to that a little bit later.
Yes, because that's a whole different story.
No, I think I've whored myself out to every type of advertiser. I've done Valero, which is, part big oil. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's like Venezuela oil, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It is.
Extra good.
And yeah, I've done Amazon. I've done banks. I haven't done any political. I've voiced political ads for voiceover, and that's all. That I'll only do liberal.
If you agree with the message.
If I agree with the message, and I just can't.
Oh, you're liberal?
I'll burn this place down. No,
I know. I'll burn it to the ground.
I'm careful what we say these days. I've done voiceover work for a church for some video presentation that they were doing, and I kind of thought the same thing. I thought, you know what? Someone's going to voice it. The message was not fanatical. It was a Father's Day.
Was it more about caring?
It was caring. It was about caring. It was a Father's Day message, and it was about love. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I felt good doing that, and I took that money and spent it on gay shit. So I felt good about that.
Fantastic. I mean, even better if you were like dripping in gay.
Yeah, exactly.
During the whole record session.
So that felt all right.
I love that though. I do. Yeah. So ethically though, there's certain, I would probably turn down a job from certain production companies who don't treat their people well before I would turn down from an advertiser.
Right. Yes. And that a lot falls into that too. Oh, yeah. Which we can dissect. We can dissect that for sure.
Right.
But advertiser, a commercial's going to get made, whether it's by you or not. Yeah.
And so if it's done by me, then I'm going to collect that money and pay everyone I can and get my people going to eat, all that kind of shit. So, yeah. Now, more so now that we've established advertiser, Pepsi, whatever, sure. We're there. Hidden Valley Ranch, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Here we go.
Now let's talk about creative.
Okay.
Have you ever turned down a job due to creative? Now that could be subtle gay jokes, subtle misogyny. I'm sorry, or just misogyny.
Just misogyny.
A dangerous stunt, only white men in the cast, misrepresentation or exclusion.
For the actual creative, no. I don't think I have. I don't think I've ever seen anything offensive just nothing glaring that looked bad to me. I think through the process down the road, I was like, oh, wait a second. What's going on here? But no, I've not turned out. Have you?
Well, I mean, yes, because I have not. No, I can say I can't remember a time. Now, have I? I don't know. But my memory at this point, and so many jobs later, right? Mm-hmm. But I have, and take aside, I have turned down jobs based on like, hey, we want to shoot Times Square at night and shut down the Manhattan Bridge and helicopter shots over. And I'm like, thank you, but no.
Yes.
There's a time in my career I would have done that. Now it's like night shoots. I don't know.
Yeah.
So no, but that's not creative really. That's just, my body related.
Yeah.
So no, but I have been on jobs where there's a one page of creative that was treated on by a director. Mm-hmm. One page from the agency, right? And then they've gone through the process and they hand it over to you. And then somehow the creative has evolved into something that I was completely not happy with.
Yeah. I've definitely been there. And at that point, you're committed to the job, right?
Yeah. So what do you do?
I've been there, and then I've definitely been in situations where, the casting breakdown says diversity and inclusion, and we're looking for all types of people. And then through whatever process the ad agency and the clients go through, you end up with a cast of all white people.
Yeah. I've been known to take casting specs and change them to open to all genders and all races.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
I just do that on my own, and then we try to, but.
And
okay.
I've told casting directors that also includes trans and non-binary people. Also, please bring them in.
Yeah.
Bring them in.
And that's, you as the producer do have some power to sway things, whether or not it's taking it head on in a big creative meeting with 20 people, or whether it's on the side doing what you can.
Yeah.
Right. Because sometimes you can sway positions or getting something in or changing the creative to be more ethical by workarounds.
Yes. I have definitely whispered in my director's ear once or twice. Like,
every job.
I don't know if that is the right way that line should be said. That might seem a little weird. So you can massage those things, and if you have a good relationship with your director, have those little bit of creative input, you can steer things in the right direction.
Oh yeah, I had a huge job where we were doing 3 different weddings. And one of the wedding was supposed to be same sex.
Yeah.
And we were trying to desperately explain to the people at the table who were not the production company or director, because it's a pretty famous job, that just because 2 women are attractive doesn't mean that they're going to play, like it doesn't mean that they're going to have chemistry on camera.
Yeah.
So actually going for representation in this instance where, you are hiring an actor to play a role who is clearly gay, then it's probably the better bet instead of hiring a straight person to play gay. But I digress. It just, you have... it is your job as the producer to advise so that you do have the best end result as well. And sometimes pointing things out like this ethically is the right thing to do, but it's also the right thing to do for the job.
Right. Now, what about diving deeper beyond the creative? What about the message of the actual commercial itself?
Yeah.
This gets really tricky. Also, I guess it would be in the script. So it is something that you get to see before you take the job. But
unless the script hasn't been fleshed out.
Unless the script hasn't been fleshed out. Yes, that does happen. But if it's some sort of, if it's using a crypto again as an example, not necessarily crypto, but some sort of risky investment company or something, or would you do an ad for somebody like cash your payday check here, at a crazy percentage rate that targets, low-income people, unrealistic weight loss solutions, or, these are more direct response ads.
They exist.
Right?
People produce them, yes.
Maybe a wellness ad or a supplements ad that maybe is promising too much, or devaluing someone's self, right? You always got to invent the problem first to sell something, right? So weight loss and wellness and all those kind of health sectors, they're pharmaceutical, right? What about that kind of messaging?
Well, big pharma, all right. That's already just I know that's a cash grab in my opinion. If you're taking, those, because ethically there is
Oof, yeah.
ethically, I mean, I can't. That I probably would go back to number one in that instance.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
But I will say that no, I've never been presented with, a job that felt like the messaging was bad. But if I was, I probably would not take it, because that's where I pride myself on being as transparent and as honest as I can in my job, and I feel that if that's just who I am as a person, and I would not ever want to try to sell something to somebody that was not accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is tough because, like you have all the research and all that shit, but you don't know, like somebody's coming up to you and saying like, here's $1 million bucks to make a commercial about this. And you're like, I don't know. I do think that, unfortunately, ethics can get a little bendy in times like this right now where nobody's working too.
Yeah, exactly. And a job comes along and it's like, yeah, you know what? I need to pay
everything.
I need to pay everything, right? There was another blog article that I will also put in the episode guide. It was, oddly enough, it was from Microsoft, but it was Microsoft. The post was about ethics, and they touched on ethics in advertising. So I'm going to read this quote. An ethical advertisement is honest, accurate, and strives for human dignity. And I think that's what I was getting at with the message, right? Like,
right.
Honest, accurate, and strives for human dignity. If it's devaluing people, saying, "Oh, look yourself in the mirror, you need to go on this weight loss program," I don't think I want to touch that.
Right.
The description goes on to say it also considers the advertising environments that are chosen for placement, and it examines the potential for data bias in analytics. So the analytics is not something we ever really get a much of a peek into, but the interest of placement of the ad, I can see how that can be, what's the word? Predatory, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you're putting ads for cash your check here at this payday thing in a kiosk in a fast food restaurant, or in what's it called, Western Union or something like that. So yeah, I never really thought about where the ad's placed as being part of it, but. Hey, Christian, what's the most important thing about film production?
The setup, pre-production, the most important part.
But you know what? A lot of people think that, but you're kind of missing a step.
Oh, right. The kickoff calls, because that's how you set up your prep.
Right. That's where you got to get all the right questions answered at the right time and set deadlines for those answers so you can put your prep on the right path to success.
Exactly. Right. And this can be accomplished with 4 kickoff calls. You need at least 4, in my opinion.
And I think for us producers, the most important one is the one with your producing partner, either the ad agency producer or your main client contact, because that's where, like you said, set the tone, set expectations, give them deadlines for when you need these answers, because timelines are already way too short for prep.
I know. We could always use more prep time, right?
And budgets are shrinking, so don't waste any time. So what we've done is we put together our top 7 questions that you should ask your agency producer or client now on that very first kickoff call.
Not only does it help answer questions that you may have, it also allows you to set the tone and, establish yourself as the leader of the project, which is also a very important step as well.
So we'll put a link in the show notes where you can get on our website and take a listen to our free audio bonus. Another delightful conversation between me and Sister Christian about best ways of setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, it's a page turner.
Check it out.
So we have no control or even view of the media buy these days.
We don't.
And honestly, we all know with targeted ads, like, 30 to 34-year-old ladies get this, and from Wisconsin. Like, that's how fucking targeted they are. I don't know that. I think that there are certain things that we can control ethically, and there's things that we can't. And so this goes into shitty employers. Sure, we're all freelance. If the advertising agency is shitty, and so as a client, we have a shitty employer. So but we still need to eat. I mean, our whole fucking society is based around like having a good job. Like, what's a good job?
Right.
There's no such thing.
What is a
like,
good
I'm
job?
surviving out here trying to, you know, like for shelter and food and sustenance, you know, and drugs. Yeah. So I think, you know, pharmaceutical and recreational
sustenance.
Exactly. So I think that what we can concentrate on are what we can do ethically with the money that we're given.
Mm-hmm. So that's budget.
It sure is.
That's budget. Are there fair rates in the budget? Are there kit rentals for people who need kit rentals in the budget? Is there enough people power, right? Or are you making, you know, people slug it out on their own or with like one assistant? Is there enough resources in the budget to make this an ethical set?
Right. And then if you feel that there is something that you can do, which is start to manage realistic creative expectations. Mm-hmm. So I feel like a lot of times in this, especially, well, always in our job, but like there's just unrealistic expectations placed on us that the world is wanted, but they want to pay for like they want to give you pennies for the entire world. And so working with your counterparts at whether it's client or agency based and explaining what can happen for your money is where I try to start. Now, that said, you know, if the job's over, that usually happens before the award.
Right.
Afterwards, you have a whole new ball game of trying to get your EP to do that.
So I have two experiences that I want to talk about. Actually, I forgot to mention this. This goes back to the message. I had this job that I turned down. It was for a fast food chain that wanted to do an experiential, because, you know, I do a lot of experiential thing where they took over one single restaurant in a very specific place at a very specific time. It was a big arts thing. They wanted to take it over and make it kind of a gallery for this known artist, a black artist. From 70s, let's say.
Okay.
I just couldn't take the job. I just couldn't take it. I just couldn't. It was like that kind of messaging to take this very important art figure and demote it to become a sandwich wrapper.
Oh.
That was literally what was going to happen. Take this person's art, not only put it on the walls, they were going to vinyl wrap the restaurant, but there was going to be sandwich wrappers of this person's art. And I thought that message was hurting culture. So I said no to that job. Now, going to the budget, I've literally sat, and this was something, it was the talent budget. So I didn't see these numbers because it was SAG. But, actually it wasn't SAG, but it was still a different budget. So I didn't have these numbers until I got it on the job. It was a ridiculous buyout. This was a fast food commercial. How about that? It was a buyout.
Who make billions of dollars a day.
Billions of dollars a day. It was like they wanted something like 3 years national TV and internet for like, $750. Yeah. And when that breakdown went out, people were outraged, and there was a little online chatter about it, and they were going to strike or picket. That rate was criminal. And I sat at the table at the meeting, and the CMO was like, why are they complaining? This is a big step in their career if we put them in our commercial.
I've heard that so many times. Or like, well, what else are they doing today? They should just come out and be happy for the money.
Yeah.
I've heard it about DPs all the way to extras. And I'm like, well, they're not. There is the flip side of that is like, you don't know how much, like if somebody is desperate for work, they will take it. But why are you feeding on people's desperation?
Exactly.
And yes, so fair nations, like just making sure that you're offering the going rate is just a little taste of ethics that you can always do. Just a little bit.
Yeah. Fair rates, of course. Kit rentals. We don't often get kit rentals, right, Christian?
We don't. And I was starting to add it up, and I'm like, that deserved or
Yes.
warranted $15 a day would cover just about everything that, like I have so many programs in my computer that I required to do this, like especially if I have to double check footage. As the producer, you have to do that. But, if I don't have Premiere or DaVinci or something like that, then I can't even look at fucking raw files. It's insane.
Right. Adobe Suite.
Oh, I have
Photoshop, Illustrator.
$65 a month.
Even just Hot Budget.
Hot Budget, yeah. I mean, yeah, $100 a year.
I know.
All of it.
Yeah.
So then also, something else that we can control is schedule. So time, is there enough rest period? Travel, are you paying travel properly? Is there enough prep time? Is there overtime on people? Are there PAs overtime? Because that's never budgeted.
No.
Are there enough days for you and your production team? That's the next thing that you can control ethically. And I will take a look at the budget, go through it, look at the calendar, everything, and then immediately point out to the production company that this is where this budget is lacking. I can find it in other places, and this is where, but expectations are that this gets paid.
Yeah.
And have that discussion up front.
Yes. The ethics of a realistic schedule for both the prep and the shoot days, the filming days, right? It's like, are we already planning a 14, 16 hour day?
That's exactly it. I have turned down jobs that were scheduled for 2 14s.
Yeah.
I just have. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. This is clearly a 3-day shoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 2 14s are nothing productive happens after the 12-hour mark. And barely after the 10-hour mark.
Yeah, barely after 10.
But after 12, nothing productive happens, and people push through because they have to, and but then that's when, even it becomes an unpleasant work environment from attitudes even. You can't make people be productive. You can make them stay. Until, the unions say you have to send them home. But that you can't make them work or be productive. Right.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be. You shouldn't.
It's like, oh, God, no, you shouldn't.
You should. Right.
The amount of days that production's often expected to work often doesn't line up with how many days are in the calendar. So always looking at your team, who's there to support you, protecting them first, right? Making sure they've got their days. And rest time and prep time. Is it really possible for your wardrobe stylist to dress 20 people with one shopping day and one fitting day? It's they're going to be working non-stop.
Spoiler alert.
And it's like they can't. We got talent in. It's 4:00 on Friday. So here are your sizes. Fittings Monday at 3. It's like, what do you think's gonna? And I have 2 days in for you. What do you think's gonna happen? They're gonna have to work like
all through the weekend, right?
All through the weekend, and hope you pay them. It's like, how else is it gonna happen?
No, and that's that goes back to like setting clear expectations about what is possible with the money that there is, and based on the calendar, which isn't, you're the advocate. I'm very thankful that we are now bargaining for our rights after this many years. But for so many years, we've been one-person advocates on set to make sure that each of these things are happening. And, I'm excited to have some support in that area. It's exhausting.
It is exhausting. I've had many conversations with higher ups, which I guess for us are either the director or the EPs,
right?
Of when somebody comes to me and says, look, I'm not able to complete this task in the way you want it done in the time we have. And I have to take that to those people and say, hey, this is a problem. We need to adjust. And many times I've heard, well, why can't they? Well, why don't they just, get more help? Or why can't they blah, blah, blah? Or no. And I'm like, look, I have to trust these professional craftsmen people that we've hired. And if they're telling me this is a problem, because this is an industry where people rarely say no.
Yeah, I know.
People will bend over backwards
literally
to push
kill
mountains, literally kill themselves to do it. If someone's coming to me and with a problem, I have to listen to it. And it's my duty to protect them and make this known so we can adjust so they're not trying to kill themselves by executing this
over a job.
Fast food commercial.
I know. Boy, they really suckered us into working for a living, didn't they?
They really did. They really did. Dream job.
I don't dream of labor.
I don't dream of labor. What about location? What about location, Christian?
Well, I mean, I feel that, it's interesting that in the notes you have written for the show, thank you again for doing that. Are we abusing the resources of a foreign country to advertise something that could harm them?
Right.
So I would love to dive a little bit deeper in that. I've done a ton of jobs on foreign soil where we have been bringing money into an economy, and I've worked with amazing people. And honestly, I mean, in the majority of those times, except for China, I will say exception for China, but the majority of those countries actually have better working conditions that we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, wouldn't it be great to just work like this?
You're right.
I know. Except for China.
It is pretty. Yeah.
There's a different, structure over there that, they're not. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like taking that into consideration too is a big deal.
Yeah. It's like, again, are you doing a commercial for BP and you're filming it in some country that maybe they have gone in and paid the government to come in and pump their oil and leave them in, a destitute state? Those are things that are important also to look at. But that's, again, it's just a matter of us taking a job or not, but it's still going to get done.
Right.
But if you're in the early conversations about, well, maybe we don't need to do this job in Brazil, right? Maybe we can do this job somewhere else.
Yeah. I know that, we all used to film in Canada. Fantastic. It became just like filming in the U.S. So then all of a sudden we go to, Central
Mexico
and South
City
America. Exactly. And so, when I've done that and gone into those countries, the working conditions, like, again, this is something that you have control over, is you're bringing the money. You can demand ethical working conditions, but a lot of times I've found that they're more ethical than, working in the U.S.
Yes.
Often enough.
Yes. And they're often happy and appreciative for the work. So
and it's a good time.
align, and it can be a really good time. Aligning that with an advertiser who hopefully is not exploiting that country as well.
Yes.
That's a hard one to lock into, but it is something that's should be looked at. And all these things, right? We've talked about all these factors on many episodes.
Yes.
And even in our mini course, The Art of Script Breakdowns, time, elements, and money. And the interplay between them is the basis of how you create a ethical set, an ethical production, an ethical job. And when you even taking the job, you look at it and you can tell these are the elements I need. This is the time I have to get them and put them in front of a camera within, and this is the money I have to do it with. Do they all line up? And sometimes they don't.
Yeah, and then also listening to your internal self on if it makes you feel uncomfortable to ask somebody to do something, it's probably not. Probably not an ideal situation, and allow your ethics, your own personal ethics meter to speak up.
I've definitely had to ask somebody a question that was I know I'm putting them in a position where they kind of have to say yes, and so I definitely pose the question of like, I take them aside. I say, I'm being made to ask you a question, and I want to make sure you know
Go on.
There are two answers to this question. There's yes and there's no. Okay? So here's the question.
Yeah.
And it's something I can see that they are just so pained. And, it's like,
Well, this is what I often tell people. Like, the answer can be no. Like, immediately when I ask a question, the answer can be no.
The answer can be no.
Here's the thing. Like, when a hard no, when you've given somebody a hard no, that means that all the scenarioing and the solutions and everything flying at you and all those questions cease. There's a new path that is created because no was given. And I know that we're
no is an answer.
Yeah, and
no is an answer.
We're trained so hard in this business to, always find an answer, always find a solution, but also if you don't do anything for 2 hours, it might go away. Like all of that stuff. And the answer can be no, and sometimes I need it to be no.
Sometimes it needs to be no.
Yeah.
And the most unethical response to it is everyone has their price.
That is. And I will also say too, no matter how much you tell somebody it's okay if they say no, they've been trained to not believe you.
I know.
So, we're also unpacking all of the previous, producers that have treated this crew member poorly. We're unpacking that too. So sometimes you have to be the one that says no.
Yeah.
You can ask.
There you go.
You can go back and be like, it's really uncomfortably no.
Yeah. And it's like, I can read it on your face. The answer is no. You don't even have to say it. I'll go shut it down.
If you're being put in that position, do you really want to work with that person again? So,
Exactly.
The gamble is you know, and then you move on, or no, you won't work with them again. Fine.
Yeah.
I know that's a little flippant because we all need work right now.
We all need work, yeah. And maybe you don't know their stance until you're deep in the job, but for the next one.
Yes, and ethically.
enjoy your next couple of weeks ethically seeing you.
I love doing these because I think that it's a nice reset sometimes for people to know that whatever they're struggling with, everyone struggles with it too. Ethics is a huge one.
A listener wrote us just the other day and was talking about budgets and said this question like, are we backsliding?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, we're here. We're right here together with you.
Yeah. All of a sudden
Budgets
I'm seeing in
shrinking.
perpetuity again, and I'm like, guy,
good
no,
Lord.
you can't. I'm sorry. But no.
We're going to dive into
unwilling.
that too on another podcast. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right, sister, how do people get a hold of you if they want you?
sisterchristianproduces.com. And Lawrence, how about you?
LawrenceTLewis.com.
All right.
See you guys next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Producers Happy Hour is brought to you with the help of the handsome Christopher Daniels,
who is a design and branding specialist,
and Brendan Russell at podlad.com, who is our fabulous editor.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to dive deeper, subscribe to our listeners' newsletter. Simply go to producershappyhour.com to sign up.
Thanks for listening, and remember,
enjoy happy hour while you can.
Because making shit is hard.